Hello, this is Fear coming at you with another episode of Breaking Out. Today, we're going to be taking yet another look at Team Extraterrestrial's JowJ playing in the Zerg versus Terran matchup. So let's go ahead and introduce the players and get this game started. As we spawn down here in the bottom left-hand corner with that badass Terran music ringing in the background, it is going to be the red Zerg player. You know him, you love him. It is the 22-year-old American player from Texas. It is Extraterrestrial's JowJ. And his opponent, spawning up here in the top left-hand corner as the blue Terran. It's going to be a very, very rough contender. It is going to be Moon. And with that being said, again, a Whirlwind, a very, very big map. And again, welcome to Breaking Out. This is the show about North American players. This week, we are looking at Team Extraterrestrial's JowJ. And we're going to take a look at his Zerg versus Terran, see kind of what he feels the matchup should be and how he feels it should be played as, and of course his strengths and weaknesses in the matchup. So we did actually get to see a bit of an interview on Monday, and that interview he kind of talked a little bit about his Zerg versus Terran, and one of the things he said that he really liked to do and was a very underutilized part of Zerg versus Terran were burrowed banelings and just creep spread. Now, I don't know if you guys know Acer Scarlet. Acer Scarlet, a fantastic Canadian Zerg player. Oh my god, I'm going to get so much hate mail for that. But a fantastic Canadian Zerg player, and is very well known for her creep spread. So we'll have to see how JowJ's creep spread actually holds up to in comparison to that. It's pretty hard comparison to make because Scarlet's pretty good. Let's be honest, Scarlet's pretty gosh darn good. But of course, I'm really interested to see how those burrowed banelings might end up being utilized. Now, just speaking a little bit about what move Moon is up to. And Moon, of course, is actually from Team Gravity, a really fantastic team. Has actually been doing very, very well as of late. Is going to be going for that CC first. Going to be adding on the Gas Geyser immediately afterwards. So I'm kind of curious how this follow-up is going to end up happening. The SCV, of course, going out to scout relatively late. And I mean, it's a big map, so some players like to scout a little bit earlier, but some players say, you know what, I'm not going to change up my build regardless of what you're going to do. The command center is a part of the wall-in, so it's a little bit hard to go super all-out balls-to-the-wall aggression against a Terran player with, you know, speedlings or anything else of the sort. But JowJ is going to go ahead and get that Gas Geyser up, has a spawning pool finishing up, as well as that hatchery, is really going to start to get into some of that production. Getting 4 Zerglings out, 2 Queens out at the same time, this is all looking super duper standard. So let's take a look at the map, and you know, some places of this map are actually fantastic for burrowed banelings, especially if you look at the positioning. You kind of know exactly where your opponent's going to go, right? If your opponent's walking over to your base, they're probably going to have to go through, of course, their own ramp. They're going to have to go through these areas right over here. And of course, even though this is a pretty wide area, you know what? The units are probably just going to be passed to walk straight across this area. You can put some burrowed banelings over there. You can put some burrowed banelings over there. You can put, I mean, it's just, you can sputter them all around. And of course, finally, it does come back over here, and you can try and do some nice little defenses over on the ramp against, you know, a big Terran army moving in. But with that all being said, we'll have to see whether or not that's actually going to be implored. We do see Overlord taking a couple hits over there from that Marine, but is going to survive. Going to hide in the shade of those trees, although this Overlord did not get the memo. To hide in the shade, you actually have to be underneath the trees. He thinks he's being sneaky, but he's not. He's really, really not. Everybody can see him. It's like those, what are they, ostriches? Ostriches that hide their heads in the sand, and they suddenly think that they're invisible. It's just like, no, you're really not. But you know, we'll let that Overlord be. But wow, actually, just speaking a little bit about the Overlord vision of JowJ, you can actually take a look. He has some pretty awesome vision right now. We have Zerglings over at the front, Zerglings over at the third. We have a Zergling at the Zelnog Watchtower. We have Overlords just kind of peppering the map. And I really like, you know, scouting all the way down and all the way back up. And now he's going to have some really great vision of that kind of area. So JowJ definitely playing with, you know, vision in mind. He felt, and it's kind of said in his interview, that he thought that ZvT was a pretty standard matchup for the most part. It doesn't alter a whole lot, minus a couple of things that could happen. and really comes down to execution, and that's something that he really wants to work on. Now, we do end up having a couple of Hellions coming out across the map. They're going to easily seize control of the Xel'Naga. Watch how this poor Zergling was not trained for this situation. Just going to go ahead and try and pick away that Hellion, but unfortunately, its life was in vain. But I mean, not 100% in vain. He does know about the Hellions coming out across the map now, and of course, these Hellions going to be able to spot over at that third expansion. Going to be able to see, hey, there's some creep going in, but oh no, the Hellions actually getting caught a little bit off guard. Just barely managed to sneak through, made of oil, clearly. And I think that is a little bit of an illegal move to actually oil yourself down before the match, but it's going to happen anyways. No referee calls over here. And those Zerglings going to be taking a lot of hits. But the important thing is JowJ is starting to get up that creep spread. The creep spread, very important. We can see that he's up to 4 queens. So he's going to have 1 queen ready, of course, to start doing some of those larva injects, and can devote 1 queen just to laying those creep tumors. And of course, even though there are 4 Hellions out with 2 more going to be joining in, it's important to note that it's very difficult to hold down all of these creep tumors going down. He's probably going to be able to pick off one of these creep tumors if he's paying attention. But of course, the other 2 are going to be able to get around over here to the 3rd expansion and potentially even 4th expansion later on. And that is very important for JowJ to actually be able to get up. So trading some Zerglings for creep spread, a bit of an interesting decision. Now, we will end up having Moon just kind of getting up that 3rd command center, lifting it up, getting ready to take that over there. But of course, there is a Zergling over there. Could actually delay the landing of that 3rd expansion. In the meanwhile, JowJ has to do something to put on a little bit of pressure because, again, it's a Terran player that has been able to kind of sit, not really take too much damage, of course, unless this Overlord scouting is going to, you know, lay out creep. Wouldn't it be cool if Overlords are laying out creep on top of SCVs just slowed everything down? That would actually be a really cool thing, but unfortunately not going to be the case. So really, JowJ hasn't been able to do a whole lot of damage to his opponent. He's kind of let him sit, and on triple CC, you do not want to let that happen. And that is exactly why JowJ is going to be going after his opponent's 3rd expansion with all these Zerglings. Gonna have to deal with these Hellions first, though. These Hellions getting some great shots off. They know exactly where their advantage lies over in those chokes, like over on the ramp, but JowJ gonna be able to get a lift off on that command center, and look at this nice little cute play over there, just kind of planting down some of that creep, saying, hey, you know, just keep chasing my Zerglings. You have to clean up this Overlord at some point, and of course, only a handful of Marines are actually out right now, so they do have to run all the way over here, clean up that Overlord, and finally we'll have to wait for this creep to, you know, recede before that command center can actually land. And in the meanwhile, JowJ is just really taking advantage of this. He pulled all those Hellions back and is starting to get that creep spread up. I don't know, you guys. This creep spread is looking pretty gosh darn good to me. We have a ton of active creep tumors. Another macro hatchery going down, and just a lot of queens. 3 queens dedicated to that creep spread. And in the meanwhile, we do have that lair tech finished up, Spire going up, the, of course, extractors, which are so important for that gas intake, actually going up as well. And, you know, a handful of banelings going up with Burrow. So looks like all of our wishes are going to be coming true very soon. We might be seeing some of those Burrow baneling plays, but Gravity's Moon, a very strong player, does have some of those Marauders out, has some of those Hellions out, is going to be able to do a lot of damage because the Mutals are not out just yet. The Spire is only just now finishing up, so he's going to have to be able to defend against this with just purely Zergling and Baneling. But look at this, the Queen's doing a decent amount of damage, getting actually to pick off 1 or 2 of those Hellions is going to definitely help out, especially against that splash damage. And of course, look at this, Scan's going down to try and clear up the creep. He has to be very careful because those Banelings are going to be moving much quicker on the creep, and of course, so will those Zerglings, so he does not want to get surrounded. It actually just scans, cleans up some of those creep tumors, and has to back out. But we do still have a couple of active creep tumors. I cannot highlight enough how cool it is to see Zerg players really making the most of that creep spread. It's such an important tool to actually push your Terran opponent back, and we can see Gravity Moon's actual resilience and, you know, not really desiring to go onto that creep. And you can see he's going to have to retreat back as there are a lot of Zerglings and Banelings actually available. And at this point, it looks like JowJ just bought enough time to actually get up some of those Mutals. Now, he's going to start the Mutals production. He's sitting on 79 drones, so he's basically done droning probably for the rest of the game. And look at this. The long-distance Changelings are just going to goop across the map. I honestly think that Changelings in this form should actually create a little trail of goop just so you have a little bit more of an inclination. And I'm actually really curious if that's actually a little tactic that you can do. In fact, if your Changelings move across the map and they encounter a Widow Mine, they will actually eat the Widowmine shot because it doesn't know that the Widowmine is there, so it doesn't actually change form into the Marine. But unfortunately, does not end up happening. Gravity Moon definitely on top of that, has his Marines all over there, and of course, looks like Moon going for a bit of a drop. I'm not sure if they actually managed to pick off any drone trying to build a 5th expansion, but I like what Moon is doing right now. He's pulling all these Mutals out of position over here with the drop, even though he might end up losing the drop, which does suck. He's using this as an opportunity to push in, and this is really the sign of a good player. Gravity's Moon can be clearing up some of this creep. He does have to be very, very patient, though. He's setting up some of those Widow Mines. It's going to be very, very important on the retreat path, but he's going to try and take out this expansion. It looks like he's going to be focused firing it down. Does have to be a bit careful, though, because now all these Zerglings and the Banelings coming in. The Mutal's going to be giving chase as well, but the hatchery does end up falling, and JowJ actually going to be moving in a position. It looks like he actually wants to try and cut off some of those medevacs. We'll have to see if it does end up working out, as you know, he could actually end up going in with yet another drop from the top side. Doesn't look like it's going to be the case, though, and Moon definitely picking up on this, is going to just go ahead and drop out over here. Maybe try and mess with JowJ's, mind and thought process for a little bit. But here we end up seeing another army moving out across the map. A nice Widow Mine hit. Does manage to get one kill off on one of those Mutalists. And I love what Moon is doing right here. He's actually just keeping that army over there, getting it ready to snipe off any additional expansions over here and try and re-snipe off this expansion. That's going to keep JowJ down to just 4 bases, and that is not a situation that JowJ can really afford to be in. But at the same time, JowJ going for a little bit of a counterattack. A nice wall off for Moon, though, is going to completely deny that. But now we end up seeing the medevacs coming in, and JowJ is actually onto it. He realized what was going to happen. He's just going to pull back. I love this. He's waiting for the Marines and the Marauders to unload, making them commit, and then is going to pick off all those medevacs, pick off all the Marines and Marauders, and no damage is really done. Is actually going to get the cancel off over there, but oh god, that is a cute play. Just going to go ahead and burrow that drone. That means that the drone is going to be able to stay alive, going to be able to rebuild that hatchery as soon as those units are cleaned up. But now we end up seeing Moon going to be coming back over here, trying to clean up some of that creep spread, as JowJ is already kind of inching over here to the potential 4th expansion of his opponent. And he's going to have to be very, very careful. Cannot allow that to get gooped up. And now we end up seeing Widow Mines trying to burrow right on top of those Banelings. Not getting the best hits off, though, as it looks like those Banelings going to be going after these Marines. The Marines are okay, at least split a little bit, but, does have to end up retreating over here, as it looks like all those medevacs going to be very, very juicy targets for these Mutalists. And it looks like the Marines going to be the reinforcing backup that they need to actually stay alive, though. And it looks like JowJ gonna have to be careful, though, because there were a lot of those Widow Mines, although it does look like with the Overseer over here, very, very important to keep that Overseer around, was able to actually clean up a lot of those Widow Mines. Has to be careful, though, because these Marines are sitting on +2/+2 upgrades. Those are very, very scary upgrades for just +1 weapons Mutalists actually trying to deal with. So JowJ's going to have to be careful. Has to make sure he does not take too much damage. Nice little pick off on the Widow Mine over here. These Zerglings actually sitting on +2/+2 upgrades as well. But +3/+3 is about to finish up for the Terran player. Will Moon be able to get up the +3/+3 in time? Will it actually even matter? As it looks like JowJ is starting to clean up the Widow Mines, really getting some nice hits off on a lot of those remaining Zerglings. Is able to really turn the tide of that battle back a little bit in favor, not entirely in favor, but a very, very close between Moon and JowJ. JowJ's going to have to be a little bit more on the defensive for right now, as it looks like Moon just continuing to rally units across the map, and this is something that JowJ was kind of complaining about. He said this is the sort of style that he has trouble dealing with when he is forced to be really pulled out around, but now we end up seeing some of those burrowed Banelings coming into play. Will the scan go down? Now, scan does go down, as it looks like Moon definitely on top of it, but of course that is some wasted minerals that you do have to deal with. Of course, at the same time, big Baneling hits going off. Is it going to be enough, though? Some more Banelings do end up going down, but it's just not enough. There are just too many units moving in from Moon. Moon has some godlike macro coming on right now, as he has so many bases trying to retake this expansion, but these Zerglings are going to be denying that. I love what he's doing with these sensor towers. Going to be able to easily see whether or not the Mutals are coming in. The Mutals taking a substantial amount of damage to these Marines. JowJ has to be so careful with all these Mutals. He cannot afford to lose them like this. Of course, the pickup is going to go down as well. There's no Overseer here to clean up this Widow Mine, sitting up at 6 kills. Some of those kills, of course, being Mutals kills. And of course, this Mutal, oh my god, this Widow Mine sitting up at 14 kills. Some of those Zerglings, some of those Mutals, but I definitely have to say, Moon looking to be in a fantastic position right now. JowJ has finally started to reestablish that 5th expansion, does have this 4th expansion mining, but really not at optimal mining, even though he does have 78 drones, does have to transfer a little bit to actually get some of that optimal mining, it looks like. But in the meanwhile, it looks like his multitasking is kind of preoccupied, just trying to get a bit of harassment done over here. There's a missile turret and a bunker, though, so going to be a little bit difficult to actually do over there. And it looks like we end up seeing some scans going down. Where in the world is he scanning? I actually have no idea. But regardless, we do end up seeing that constant flurry of macro coming out of Moon. What a macro-heavy player. And JowJ is having a little bit of trouble keeping up with it. But again, he is starting to get up some of those late-game tech units that he wants out. He's getting up the chitinous plating. He's getting up the +3/+3. And he has the ultras out on the map right now. Is this going to be what he needs to actually deal with this? There aren't a lot of Marauders out right now. In fact, I don't think there are any Marauders out right now. We do have 9 Widow Mines, but those are not going to be enough. And if those ultras can eat up those Widow Mine shots, JowJ might actually be able to take the big lead in this game. We end up seeing some nice little attempted pickoffs, but oh no, he takes a lot of damage from that Widow Mine. Has to be so careful when it comes to that. The Banelings do manage to pick off those Widow Mines before they end up getting all picked off, and of course, additional Widow Mines going to be getting some good hits off, but the Overseer is actually leading the charge. A really smart play from JowJ is going to be able to soak up some of those Widow Mine hits, and all these Zerglings are going to be able to pick away at these Marines. These Marines very much in the red health, and these Ultras aching to get a little bit of damage in. They are just aching to taste some of that Terran Marine blood, but unable to do so for them. Meanwhile, gonna have to back up, gonna have to rally in a handful more units, although these are not the units you want to rally into the battle. You want to be rallying in all of your, Zerglings. You want to be rallying in your Banelings, but of course, at the same time, you want to keep those Zerglings and Banelings over here to defend that expansion. A lot of drones going down. You can see over here, 18 drones have already fallen before the Zerglings actually managed to get in, and a nice pickup from Moon is going to be able to keep a lot of those Marines alive, but it looks like they are eventually going to be able to be picked off by JowJ. As, once those medevacs do end up using the boost, they are going to eventually be caught up with by those Mutalisks. Now, in the meanwhile, we do have Moon continuously having to pick off these creep tumors as JowJ just keeps trying to spread that creep. At the same time, drops going on consistently from Moon, really just trying to keep JowJ on the back foot. But I do have to remind you guys, JowJ did say in the interview that he was practicing with a fantastic Terran player by the name of Jimmy, and Jimmy is a drop master, man. This guy can drop like insane amounts, so much that you will think that he was a DJ trying to drop the beat. But regardless, JowJ has actually got a lot of practice against this, and he's actually doing a pretty decent job. Minus 1 or 2 of those drops doing some good damage. JowJ just managed to defend relatively well, and now we can see he just has such a large army right now. Even though the supplies are relatively even, you can see at these Ultras with the +3/+3 upgrades are really able to do a lot, as well as those Banelings starting to get in, trying to look for those big connections, but will they actually be able to find it? The Mutals also trying to pick off a couple of those sensor towers. A nice little SimCity over here should push JowJ back, yes, and he will have to retreat back. Despite having so many of these Ultras, they're not quite as useful once you get into those choked positions, and now we end up seeing JowJ on hold position. Is this what he needs to actually be doing right now? He needs to actually get those Ultras out of there. Cannot be taking too much damage from a lot of those Marauders. It doesn't look like JowJ's going to be making any kind of tech switch, but I like what he did over there. Try to use some of those organs to try and catch some of those units and not give them any room to actually run back how they wanted to. And now we end up seeing a lot of Mutalisks left over here, even though the Marauder count is actually getting pretty high and the Ultras are dropping rather quickly. The Mutalisk count is maintaining relatively high. There are not that many. Oh my god, that was a huge Baneling hit. Wow, that was a huge Baneling, and that's actually going to completely turn the tide of the battle. Without those Marines actually left alive, that means that the Mutalisks are going to be reigning supreme. The Mutalisks are going to be able to pick off the Medics. They're going to be able to pick off the Marauders. The Marauders cannot fight back against the Mutalisks, and that means that even if these Ultras get picked off, it does not matter. As long as JowJ can continue to power in, he's trying to make additional Zerglings. He's trying to make additional units, but he does end up eating quite a few of those Widow Mine shots, and it looks like just barely Moon is going to be able to hold, thanks to all of these very powerful Widow Mines. These Widow Mines definitely the saving grace of Moon right now. And some great control out of both of those players. It looks like for the meanwhile, JowJ's going to have to just try and recoup some of the losses from those Widow Mine shots. Going to have to rebuild up that Mutalisks count, sitting at 15, which is a pretty decent amount. And, it's really thanks to the fact that he has a lot of bases, but his opponent also sitting on quite a few bases, even though that natural expansion and I think even the third base is starting to get very mined out. So really the Terran player is actually sitting on a 2-base economy, which is not as great I was thinking, but look at this. JowJ also kind of starting to dwindle in the base count, although he hasn't really been mining as much for the 4th, 5th, or the 6th expansion, so only really now just starting to mine from there, but he does have to keep them alive if he wants to be able to actually defend them. That is a very, very important part of it. Widow Mines being burrowed, this is going to be a very difficult position to actually come in and defend, as it looks like this small squadron of Marines and Marauders easily going to be able to pick off a ton of these units, but I love what JowJ is doing over here, using that burrow upgrade to the maximum potential, and now we end up seeing JowJ on the counteroffensive, going after all those production facilities with those mules. If he can get on top of those, he can do a lot of damage, but he has to be careful of these Widowmine shots. The Widowmine shot's absolutely huge. In the meanwhile, it looks like JowJ going to be losing yet another one of his expansions. He does not have any units over here to defend. He does have a single Beetles over here going to be popping out. Probably not going to be enough, but look at this. Banelings coming in, and it looks like finally JowJ is going to get chased out by the handful of Marines popping out. And at the same time, JowJ is losing yet another hatchery. He's really starting to lose a lot of his economy, even though he's gotten some great hits off. He's losing a lot of drones over here. Dropping down from 79 drones or 80 drones to just 50, losing 20 drones in the process. You can see 53 drones killed throughout the course of this game, but it has been a rather wacky game and a very aggressive game indeed. These Banelings going to be able to at least clean up the 2 Marines. So it looks like this Marauder going to have to deal with the damage from these Mutilas after the medevac does end up getting picked off. And of course, at the same time, it looks like the damage was a little bit too much, and JowJ does have to tap out, but not before showing us some really great and fantastic ZvT play. So really well done by both of these players. Moon, an absolutely fantastic player, cannot take it away from him, as we end up seeing him get some really fantastic hits off with a lot of those Widowmine shots. And of course, just doing a great job pushing in and trying to clean up some of that crease spread. But even with all of those scans that, we end up seeing from Moon, we end up seeing that JowJ still has some okay crease spread kind of going on right now. So really awesome game from these 2 players, but JowJ showing us some fun stuff, showing us some of those burrow Baneling plays and whatnot. So thank you so much to JowJ, and it takes a really, really humble guy. I cannot stress this enough. It takes such a humble guy to, be told, hey, you know what? I want to see some of your really awesome ZvT games where you just feel like you play your style. And he sends us a game where he actually loses. These are the kinds of players that are going to be spotlighted on the show, because these are the kinds of players that are really worth watching. They're the very humble guys that have really fantastic play. I feel like we did get to see some really cool stuff out of JowJ. We saw those burrowed Banelings. We saw that really awesome and insane creep spread and a pretty decent drop defense, all things considered, considering how ridiculous Moon is with those drops. But we got to see that play, but at the same time, it was not quite enough in this game to overtake his opponent, because it looks like by the end, Moon was just able to pick off a couple too many of those bases, get into too good of a position over here with these Widow Mines, I think, and JowJ wasn't able to do the damage he needed to over the production facilities. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please tune in tomorrow for another episode of Breaking Out, and we will watch JowJ's ZvP. I know I actually said yesterday that we would watch a ZvP today, but I got the dates a little bit mixed up, but hopefully you guys will decide to tune in for that. And in the meanwhile, if you have not caught yesterday's game, which was a ZvZ, please go ahead and check that out. And of course, also check out the interview from Extraterrestrial's JowJ. And we'll be checking out a little bit more of his play and wrapping things up with a Friday cast that'll just be a really awesome and fun game, and a Saturday cast. Or sorry, just a Saturday fun event where we'll kind of sit down with JowJ and have a little bit of fun, maybe, do some fun events and, just wrap up the week. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I will see you guys at 9 p.m. Pacific tomorrow over at twitch.tv/FearDragon64, and you can also catch the VODs in case you miss it over at youtube.com/FearDragon64. Have a wonderful night, guys.